Hello, my name is Dan Ludy, and in this video nugget I'm going to go over what it takes to be printing to a Ricoh device using Airprint. So the first thing we need to know is whether or not our device is Airprint compatible. On the Apple support page, which I'm already there, if you were to do a search for Airprint, and in the first result they talk about how you can see a list of compatible printers, and after you click on that link there's another link just below the first image here. Check the list of Airprint enabled printers, and you can see that these are listed by manufacturer, and down there is the Ricoh devices. The other thing I want to point out is that on our own TSRC page, if you were to go to the global knowledge base and change from select a product to find answers and did a search for Airprint, the support resources is probably going to be your best bet as far as where you can get all the information you need. This first one, as far as troubleshooting, that's actually included in this second one. So the answer ID, you might want to make a mental note or actually jot down, is 251140 for the support resources for Airprint. And waiting for that to open up here. And the first thing I want to point out is that they actually have a link to that same page that I navigated to right from the Apple support site. They also have a Word doc and a spreadsheet. I'll talk about the spreadsheet first. It lists what firmware you need to have, what version of firmware you need to have in order for your device to be Airprint compatible. I would tell you that it's a good idea to just make sure that your firmware is latest and greatest. However, that being said, the newer machines, you have probably a more than better chance that the firmware is up to date on the brand new machines and ready to be receiving Airprint print jobs. But why take the chance? Probably want to go ahead and update that firmware. There's some other good information in this spreadsheet, by the way. Is there an Airprint setting in WIM? Now these are older machines up here. They didn't always have that. Now there's actually a setting. That doesn't mean that it wasn't Airprint compatible. Also, the protocol that's necessary. Is IPP good enough? Or does it have to be IPPS? I think you'll find that there's more and more going to be machines that can use, the newer machines anyway, that are going to either require IPPS or IPPS and IPP. I should say IPP or IPPS. The Word doc, they have some, it's a pretty short one, it's only a couple of pages, which is mostly pictures. They just have a couple of mentions of the settings that are necessary. And let's go ahead and go to a machine, 3004EX, the C3004EX, which I'm already logged into, and take a look at those settings. So notice that this particular device does have an Airprint menu, and by default the Airprint is active. So if it was inactive when you were started, somebody would have had to go in and change that. There's also a name that you'll see when you go to Discover Devices, and I would tell you that you probably should be shortening these a little bit. I don't know that it's necessary to have all this information, but if the customer's okay with it, then that's fine. I would probably put a location in there in case they have a lot of equipment that's the same model type. They know exactly what machine they're printing to. Now, some of those machines in the spreadsheet you've seen, they need to be communicating using IPPS. So if that's the case, we're going to need to configure a device certificate. The machines, the generation of machines that have a smart op panel as the default panel type, they actually do have a certificate installed by default. It's a self-signed certificate, and SSL TLS is configured, so they would be ready to go again, unless somebody was to go in and delete that certificate. Otherwise, it is installed by default on the smart op panel generation machines. The SSL TLS is also enabled by default. Let me go back to the Airprint. There's one last thing I want to point out. If the customer wants another level of security, they can turn on IPP authentication, which means that when somebody goes to print, they're going to have to provide a username and password that is put into the machine using this screen here. Now, if the machine doesn't have an Airprint menu item, you can get to the certificate, you can get to the bonjour information from outside of the Airprint menu, and you can get to the device certificate from outside of the Airprint menu, and you can even get to the IPP authentication from outside of that. Last but not least, if it requires the IPPS, which means you'd have to have a device certificate and also at least IPv4, you'd have to have SSL TLS active. Okay, so let's take a look at, on the iOS device, this was an iPad that I took these screenshots from. The first thing that the customer needs to know is the iOS devices, the iPhones and the iPads that they want to AirPrint from, they need to be on the same network segment as the printer. So they'd have to make sure they set that up. These protocols that are being used aren't routable, but they would need to be on the same network segment. So from the app that you want to print, in this case I happen to have had a browser up and decided to print from that. You're going to want to choose either your share or send button, icon I should say, and that's this icon right here. So regardless of the app that you're in, when you want to go to print from it, you want to find this icon, and after you select that, you'll get a pop-down menu. The print, you'll probably have to scroll over a little bit to find the print menu. I had to. So after I touched the print button or icon, now initially the first time I did this, there wasn't any printers listed. That's listed there because that's I did a test print to it. But if you wanted to change to a different printer, or if it's the first time you print, you touch this little right arrow key here, and it'll take you to a menu that'll show you all your Airprint printers. Select the one you want to print to, and then if you wanted to change the quantity, you could do that. Any options that are available, you could take a look at those as well. And then up at the top of this window would be your print button. That's pretty much all there is to it. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you.